Today we're going to work on some bow finger flexibility exercises. Welcome. Welcome to the studio. My name is Cassie and I'm a professional violist and teaching artist. So today I wanted to work on a few finger flexibility exercises for your bow hold. So I'm actually going to put my viola down for a second. And first things first, I want to make sure that I have a proper bow hold. So let's just double check that, okay? I want to make sure that my fingers are nice and curvy, not straight. This is a Franco-Belgian style bow hold, so we want curvy fingers. This is more of a Russian style, and I don't advocate that style because I think you're getting the sound that you want through tension, not through relaxation. So I'm going to advocate for those more curvy fingers. I want to make sure that my pinky is nice and curved on top, not straight. Same goes for my thumb. We want a curved thumb or a bent thumb, and if my bow is not there, that's the shape my thumb is making. It's contacting the bow right at the tip of the thumb. And I call this the frog's mouth, that curvy part. It's not the technical name, but you're kind of blockading the frog's mouth. My other fingers just kind of fall on top of the stick. My ring finger's covering the frog's eye. My middle finger is kind of covering where my thumb goes, and my pointer finger is going to contact at that big knuckle. So there's your basic bow hold. Once you've got that formed, I'm going to go to rocket ship position or straight up and down position. In this horizontal position, I'm putting a little bit of tension on my pinky. So to get rid of that tension, we're going to start this in rocket ship position. Here's our first exercise. I'm only going to use my wrist and below to lift and lower the bow. So if I don't have a bow, it almost feels like I'm gathering and releasing. Gathering and releasing. With the bow in my hand, gather, release. Gather, release. And I'll do that up close so you can see it a little better. So we're going to gather, release. Gather, release. And it's not my arm moving, it's just that wrist. It's really the fingers, wrist and below, that are moving. If it's too hard to do with your bow, try it with just your hands. So shake the water off, leave your hands nice and floppy, and gather them up. And it's almost like you're holding onto your thumb here. Release, gather, release, gather. Once that feels good, turn it in rocket ship position, release, gather, release, gather. Go back to the bow or an intermediate step. You can use one of these thicker boba straws. Same idea, it just weighs a lot less. So you're going to release, gather, release, gather, release, gather. Or a pencil. Release, gather, release, gather. Until that feels solid. And then you can go back to trying that on the stick. So always keeping your other hand here is just a buffer just in case. And notice the motion is not big. I'm not lifting it way to the sky. It's, maybe 2 inches that I'm lifting and releasing. So this is going to come into play in a lot of our bow strokes. Not that a lot of them are initiated by your fingers or your wrist, but we want to have that flexibility there to help us recreate those bow strokes. So that's exercise 1. We're going to move on to exercise 2. This is still just with our bow. I do this often with my beginners. We're going to hold it in horizontal position, but I'm going to keep my other hand here at the tip of the bow, not touching the hair, and I'm going to use just my pinky, they call these pinky push-ups, to push up the stick and lower it back down. Push it up and lower it back down. So oftentimes in like our everyday life, we don't use our pinky for much, and it's pretty weak. So this can help get your pinky back to fighting strength. And again, notice I'm not turning my whole wrist. I'm not using any other fingers. It's just my pinky. Is my pinky able to push that stick up and lower it back down? Push the stick up. Now, I'm not going to say do 100 reps of this a day, just like with any exercise. If it's new to you, you start off, a little bit by little bit. So if you can get a couple of those in a day, great. Build it up to see maybe I can do 10. 1, 2, 4, etc. So that's going to help strengthen that pinky, especially for people that are double jointed. And double jointed means instead of your joints curving outwards like this, they tend to collapse or V in. If that's you, you're going to have to work even harder than somebody that's not double jointed to keep that pinky especially from collapsing. And it's really important that we have that flexibility or that curvy position for all of our fingers to recreate not only like a basic bow stroke, but as we get better with those basic bow strokes, when we get to the advanced bow strokes, to recreate those. So for these next couple of exercises, I want you to grab your instrument. We're going to do some work on the instrument. I'm going to go to playing position. I'm going to set my bow in the middle. And that stroke that we did where we were releasing and gathering, we're going to give that one a try, but on the string. So actually, let's set at the frog. It's a little bit easier there. So I'm going to set at the frog, and I'm starting with that released or very loose finger feeling. And I'm going to try to gather so that my bow, this stroke is called collé, so that my bow kind of does a little flick. So I'm released, gathered. I'm going to stay in that gathered position and set back at the frog, and then release and do the whole thing again. Set, release. This time, can you try releasing onto the string? Release, gather. Show you from this angle. So this is that released, gather, release, gather. Common things I see are that when people do the gather, their bow hold tends to slip, or their pinky slides off. So that's where those pinky push-ups are going to come in clutch, because it's going to help strengthen your pinky so that doesn't happen. So the up bow, this is, an up bow collé, is way easier than the down bow. So let's try both of those, okay? We're going to set at the frog, released fingers, and we're going to do that gather feeling on the string. This time, stay in that gathered position, set back on the string, and release. That's your down bow collé. So release, gather, stay gathered, set, release. Now that we're released, we can try the gather again. Gather, set, release. Set, gather, set, release. As that becomes more comfortable, obviously you can speed it up. You can try it at different parts of the bow, but I'm going to stick to the frog because it's a little bit easier to do there. So that was our finger flexibility exercise, that first one that we did. That's going to really help us with that collé stroke. The pinky strengthening exercise that we did is going to help us with the next one, and this is a bit of a brain twister. We are used to, at the frog, doing a down bow, at the tip doing an up bow. We're going to reverse that. So I'm going to use that pinky because we're going to be traveling kind of in space above the string. Watch that pinky, that it stays curved, don't let it get straight. I'm going to set my bow, an inch above the winding, and instead of doing a down bow here, I'm going to do an up bow. Release into the air, that's where that pinky strength is going to help me out. Travel all the way to the tip of the bow, where we would usually be doing an up bow, and we're going to do down. So it's up at the frog, travel, down at the tip. Up, down. Now, as we get better at this, you can obviously go faster. For right now, we're going to go really slowly. So that up bow again, I'm not doing the flick or the collé, it's just an up bow. Follow through with your elbow, so we don't want to see this, where your elbow's kind of sunk to the floor. Follow through. Travel, hover about an inch above, maybe 3 or 4 inches from the tip, and we're going to do that down bow. Set it again. Now the trick here comes in not crash landing at the tip. That's where that pinky strength is going to come in handy. Let's try it one more time. Up bow at the frog, travel, use that pinky strength, set, no crashes, down bow at the tip. And you can speed it up as you go. I've practiced this a lot, so if it doesn't come easy for you at first, because it is a little bit of a brain twister, right? It's the backwards or the inverse of what you expect it to be, just go slow, you'll get there. Now we did this at the extremes of the bow. You could do it anywhere in the bow, just because this norm here, we want to do down bow when we're at the frog, is just kind of messing with your brain a little bit. I could do it in the middle of the bow too. Up bow, set, down bow. You could pick random parts in the bow, make it the goal to always start and stop at the same spot. So wherever your down bow starts, you want your up bow to reset in that same spot. Set the same spot, set. You get the idea. But again, the attention is on that pinky being curved, and what does my bow hold feel like? Oftentimes when we start traveling in the air, this starts getting kind of tense and you start clutching the bow. We don't want that. We always want fluffy, loose fingers on the frog. It should almost feel like you're almost going to drop your bow. Your fingers are that released. And then keeping that thumb and that pinky bent are going to be really, really important. So I hope these 4-ish exercises helped. Let me know if you're struggling with any of them or if you're experiencing a technical difficulty. I love trying to help from afar. Thank you as always so much for joining me, and happy practicing.